All right. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad Podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I am your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. It's true. It's true. I said it. You know, I wouldn't say it if it weren't true. If you're tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. Now, on Monday, I told you that in the spirit of Charlie Kirk's death, I was going to do a little bit more effort. I was going to put in a little bit more effort to engaging with people that I may not always agree with, right? I'm going to bring some people on the show now, not necessarily every week. And it just so happened that I was able to get two people on this week. So it's kind of out of the ordinary. It's kind of, maybe the universe is telling me something. I don't know. So yesterday, had a little issue with some technology in the morning, but we did end up getting Alan Roberts on last night to discuss his perspective as somebody who's in the health sphere. And he kind of gave his perspective of, where are we in this country? What do we need to do to get back to where we're a better country overall, or how do we get to that particular place? And he kind of came at it from the angle of health. And today, I've got Mason Shoemaker. He is the president of the Florida College Democrats. So he is on, and we're going to talk about political violence in general, and then just see where the conversation goes. So please give a nice little warm welcome to Mason as he joins the show. Mason, how are you, sir?
Hello, Liberty Dad. How are you?
Very well. And this fine 7:30 a.m. here in Florida.
Bright and early.
I know, right? Like, hey, this is a good thing. Like, I don't know how old you are, but you
Totally.
appear to be 20s, and I'm
I'm
47.
20.
All right,
Yeah,
perfect. 20 and
I
47, and
am.
we're still able to get up at 7:30 in the morning.
Listen, here we are. Listen, I think it's good. I think it's a great start to the day to have a conversation.
So let's start. Tell the audience who you are so that we have a bit of an understanding of who you are, where you're coming from, all that good stuff. Just introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Mason Shoemaker. I am currently serving as the president of the Florida College Democrats. I'm a political science student at the University of North Florida, a junior, and I have been into politics for a long, long time, ever since I was a little kid. So I served as president of the UNF College Democrat before serving as the president of the Florida College Democrats. And I've been witnessing politics ever since I was young. And I remember when I was young, Donald Trump was coming into the scene. And that's when things kind of started to get a little bit crazy in terms of politics. It's never been like this in my lifetime where we're seeing somebody get, you know, shot and killed
Mhm.
for expressing their political beliefs. So that's part of the reason why, I wanted to come on the podcast today and kind of talk about it. Because we cannot you know have our political discourse be this way.
Right. Okay, so you said it's you said I've been in politics for for a long time now since Donald Trump, and when you're my age, that sounds a little weird to hear. So, about what age did you start getting involved in politics?
I would say probably how old was I when Donald Trump was elected the first time? Probably like 12. I think when I
12? Okay, wow,
yeah,
that's pretty early.
yeah.
I don't think I was even interested when I was 12, definitely by high school, but not when I
Yeah. I mean, like, I mean, involved into the, the way as far as I could be,
right. Did you grow up in a political family?
Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say my parents always, were listening to NPR or whatever on the
Mhm,
radio, and my parents would explain things to me, of course, from their perspective, and I get a lot of my political beliefs from them. Not even gonna front about that.
right.
So, yes. So hold on one second. I just oh, is that a virtual assistant? Who was that? My VA
Oh,
lady.
yes,
Is that like
my
a
VA lady, she assists with the show. She keeps me on my toes and makes sure that I do things correctly. So,
so I am related to Nathan Shoemaker, an educator in Mayport. That is my uncle. But anyway, I had
oh,
to
okay.
point that out.
I don't even
Um,
know who that is.
yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, I got distracted. So we were talking about
Your family, like,
yeah,
did you
my
grow up
family.
in a political family? Were they just
Parent. I
like,
mean,
"Rah, rah, rah,
I mean,
Dems"?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, my parents were not like elected officials or anything, but
Mhm,
they were, you know, aware of what was
mhm.
going on, and I think that kind of like more so my dad specifically.
Okay.
He's kind of a big. My mom was kind of like I would start talking about politics, and she'd just roll her eyes. So more of it is on my dad's end. So yeah, I would say so.
Sounds kinda like what, my son's going to experience. I will talk about politics, and then my wife will be like, "Yeah, whatever, okay, anyway."
Right,
She
right,
hates
right.
politics.
Exactly.
She doesn't care about it. By the way, just let me point out to you, if you could make sure to speak up a little bit louder or maybe move your laptop a little closer,
I
um,
apologize.
whatever your audio is going kind of in and out, so there'll be, like, moments where you're nice and clear and loud, and then other
Okay.
moments where it feels like you're trailing away from the microphone a little bit.
All
So,
right. I'll try my best. This laptop's a little bit old, so that
yeah,
might be
no worries. I just wanna make
all
sure
right.
that everybody hears everything you have to say. So, what is it so I know a lot of people, they grow up in a household, maybe they're Republican, they're conservative, maybe they're Democrat, liberal, what have you, and and it's very common for young people to grow up and adopt their parents' views. But as you start getting older, you tend to determine your own way, and sometimes that remains the same, right? Re Republican, children of Republicans grow up and remain Republican. Sometimes they go libertarian like I did, or maybe they become a Democrat or what have you. So, do you feel like this is going to be your place for the foreseeable future? Are there you how confident are you in Democrat ideas, and what is it that appeals to you?
So yeah, I would say so. I mean, I've been a Democrat my whole life. I mean, as long as I've been into politics.
Mhm,
My parents definitely, I think, I mean, yeah, they formed my political beliefs, but I also think that I've, formed my own beliefs as well.
mhm,
I don't entirely attribute that to my parents. Um, some ideas, I believe in a strong federal government. I believe in, strong public education system. I believe in a public option healthcare system. Um, for example, some of the things that Democrats stand for, and we can go to other issues, if you want to talk about it. But
mhm.
Democrats largely align with, my beliefs, and so yeah, I mean, part of that has to do with my parents, but I also think part of it just has to do with me, you know, growing up and forming my own opinions as I get older.
Gotcha. All right, fair enough. And then the Florida College Democrats, which is
Yes.
the organization that you are the president of. Tell us a little bit about that organization, what it hopes to achieve. Are you the first president? Because I don't know anything about this particular organization, but it looks to me like it's kind of new. Maybe I'm wrong. So tell us about it.
Right. So the Florida College Democrats is a caucus under the Florida Democratic Party. So it's the official apparatus, I guess you could say, for college Democrats in Florida. It's a chapter. It's also chartered under the College Democrats of America.
Mhm.
Um, the Florida College Democrats. It's predates me at least. I'm not the first president.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how long it's been around, but at least a few years. So our main goal really is to get college students engaged in democratic politics and voting for Democrats. So, for example, we'll participate in things such as like, dorm storms, which is basically just like canvassing dorms.
Okay.
And we will table at events across the state on campuses. We have chapters here at UNF, obviously, at UF, USF, FSU, and there are way too many
Right.
to count. But that's our main goal, really, to get students engaged in democratic politics.
Gotcha. And then do you guys host any kind of particular events that you're known for? Or, like, is it just getting people involved, or are there more things that you guys are doing?
Well, I mean, in terms of events and stuff, I mean, we do, like I said, it's mainly campus stuff. So our
Mhm.
main goal is, obviously we're a college Democrat. So our main goal is to get the college students involved. So, our main, events, I guess you could say, are kind of like on campus. We'll do, our chapters will have general body meetings and stuff like that. And they'll have events like, for example, I think the other day at at FAU, they had like a donuts and coffee or whatever with students. So our goal really is also to just make sure that students are registered to vote because there are a lot of students out there who are very apathetic um, and who maybe are not registered to vote and things like that. So, and just making sure that they're educated on the issues.
When you say they're apathetic, do you have any, you know, do you have any understanding as to why? Is it just because they're younger, or do they hate politics? What's your take?
I think there are. I mean, it's different for everybody, but I think it's largely. I've noticed a lot of people just don't. They say, "Oh, I'm not into politics." They just don't pay attention to it. Like, there's no particular rhyme or reason for it. They just don't, you know, have any interest in it. And when I hear that, I kind of have to explain to them, well, you may not have an interest in it, but politics has an interest in you.
Mhm.
So it's important to have your voice heard. Yes, we live in Florida. We live in a red state. So yeah, your vote probably isn't going to matter that much on a presidential and federal level, and or governor even. But when it comes down to local elections too, we saw how close we had some local elections back in 2023, and we saw how close those were.
Right.
So your vote really matters in terms of that. And some other students just, I mean, you'll get fringe kind of students who maybe are so far left or so far right that they're like just so tired of the mainstream politicians and they just feel like they don't want to participate in that, but those are few and far in between.
How would you define far left, far right?
So when I think of, far left, I'm talking, maybe the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America type folks, people who are more, I feel like, agitators. To me, like as a college Gems president, and I have an umbrella. Okay, I have a lot of students who have many different beliefs than I do, which is
Mhm.
okay. But also, we have people who are just so disillusioned with the Democratic Party. After, I don't know, the 2024 election, they thought that Kamala Harris was too conservative.
Okay.
I don't know what kind of person that, like, if that even, I don't know. It's above my pay grade. But I think that is probably an example of somebody on the far left of the spectrum. And then you have somebody on the far right of the spectrum who, I don't know, there are so many different factions of the far right, I feel
Mhm.
like. So it's hard to kind of come down to who exactly is the far right. I have not run into somebody, at least that I know, who is like super, super far right, as in like, I don't know, like a Nick Fuentes type or anything.
Okay.
But um, you know, when I see more personalities on Twitter and or X, whatever, and on YouTube and all that. That's kind of what I think of when I think far right, and I'm sure we'll talk about that too.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'm just trying to kind of get a feel for who you are, where you're coming from, kind of like your worldview. When you see things on Twitter, how right or left, how closely does that match from your experience on college campus? And I mean, not of the people who are apathetic and don't care about politics, because obviously that wouldn't make sense, but of those who are, is there a lot of agreement in, when you meet somebody on the right with right leaning personalities online, and same likewise with the left?
Well, I think one of the things I brought up, I was actually speaking to Chair Nikki Fried about this yesterday. A lot of people online are the fringes of either side. I mean, social media amplifies the most extreme voices,
Hmm.
um, and so I don't know that everybody I meet on the street is going to agree with um, what is being said on Twitter, you
Hmm.
know? That's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to come on the podcast today was because I see so many voices on Twitter, um, you know, people on the far left, maybe celebrating the um, the death of Charlie Kirk, and then people on the far right calling for civil war, you
Right.
know. But when you actually go out and meet people on the street, you find a Republican on the street and you find a Democrat on the street. I imagine that they're much more reasonable, and I
Right.
say that because I've talked to people about this, in my family and all that, and my more conservative family. I've talked about this, and they agree with me that it seems that people in real life, off of social media, have come together about Charlie Kirk.
Hmm.
So that's kind of an example of that, I would say.
When you're going about college, have you? Well, let's keep it to the left side for right now. Have you met anybody, or do you know anybody, or have you heard of anybody, like any facsimile thereof, on campus who was celebrating Charlie Kirk's death?
Nobody that I know personally. No,
Okay.
I haven't seen anybody actively celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. No, I've seen maybe people who um, are posting about how they disagreed with him,
Mhm.
but they're not celebrating. Posting about whether or not you disagree with Charlie Kirk is not the same as celebrating his death. So no.
Got it. And then the follow up would be, I know people that were not celebrating, but they were like, "Well, look at the words that he was saying," and they're not sympathizing with the shooting. They're just saying, "I kinda get why somebody who's really radical might want to do that." Um, do you know anybody that was like that?
Yeah, I mean, a couple, but maybe one or two. But most people that I've talked to are completely just. We were all shocked by it. Like, I'll give you an example. My colleague over at the Florida Young Democrats, which is a separate entity from the Florida College Democrats. Um,
Is that the high school
um,
group?
no, they are like the all encompassing. Like ages like 14 to 40.
Oh,
So
okay.
the
40's not
Florida
young.
Young.
I'll throw that out. Just saying.
Well, I mean, you
I
said it,
got
not
aches
me.
and pains that you don't. I'm just saying. They're coming, but you
Listen,
don't have them yet.
I think we're just trying to be inclusive here.
Fair enough.
But, yeah, I was talking to them and they were like, "Yeah, we're totally shocked about this, and we were kind of brainstorming how we come up with a statement that, resonates with people, and how we can tone down the political violence." So I think maybe you'll get a couple people like that
Mhm.
on the street, but I think generally most people are in line with myself.
Right, right. Here's a question from the audience. Keith asked, he says, "How do you feel about the Republicans cooperating with the Democrats to exclude or make it difficult for other parties and independents from running?" So this is the talk about like all the lawfare and all this other stuff that kind of like gets people kicked off the
Yeah.
ballot or whatever.
Well, I think that if you're eligible to be on the ballot and
Mhm,
you go through the proper, like everybody else does, you get the signatures to get on the ballot, or you pay the
mhm,
filing fee, then yeah, you should be on the ballot. Um, we do have a two-party system in this country, no matter you know if we like it or not, we just
mhm.
do. I don't know
Right,
what the solution is to that. Um, our founding fathers warned of political factions, but here we are. You know,
right.
so I don't think anybody should be preventing anybody from getting on a ballot, but I also um, understand, like for example, as a Democrat, as to why I would be weary of maybe like a Green Party candidate coming in because they might hurt Democrats' chances
Mhm.
of getting elected.
Right.
Um, but I don't think I we shouldn't be suppressing anybody in this country. No.
Gotcha. And let me just kind of clarify. In some cases, what's happening is you get, and you could go look them up and read the details, but in some cases, what's happening is you'll have in the lawfare spectrum, you'll get like maybe the Republicans or the Democrats, because both of them have done it, and they will go and look for the finer details, and they'll be like, "Oh, you forgot to dot your I's and cross your T's. Let me," and so it's technically like, yeah, they made a mistake, but I feel like it's in the spirit of it. They went looking to remove somebody. Is
Yeah, I mean that certainly could be the case. I think it's it's just I hate to say that's like how it is, but
Mhm,
it's just it is. I mean, unfortunately, we have a two-party system in this country, and that's
mhm.
how we've been for a long time,
Would you be open?
long before my time.
Sure. Would you be open to challenging that?
Um, I mean, uh, if there was, no, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because like if um right now the only minor parties that I'm aware of that um you know the Libertarians and the Greens, I don't align with either of those.
Right.
So
I get you.
um I don't know. I mean, it would have to be like I don't see a circumstance in which I would leave the Democratic Party. No.
Well, I'm not saying leave. I'm just saying like challenge it in sense of like say cooperating with them with either party at some point. So I'll give you an example. Years ago, and I'm trying to. I think I remember it was Amendment 3, but and it had to do with uh gosh, I can't remember now. It was several years back, and the Green Party and the Libertarian Party got together and they pushed against, I believe it was Amendment 3. If somebody in the comments can remind this old man what it was, that'd be great. But we actually ended up working with them, creating flyers and passing them out to help defeat Amendment 3.
Amendment 3 was legalization of marijuana, yeah?
No, it was before that. It was before. I think it was before that.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm trying to remember, and it's kind of weird when you come up with, you're like remembering it, but not all of it. so,
Right, right.
uh, so let me, I'll type it in the chat and see if I'm not the chat, but I mean into Google and see if I can't find it. But let's see here. Give me a second while I type it in. But
Um,
those kind of things I think would go well towards saying like, "Hey, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, they don't align on many issues, but on this one particular issue, we were like, you know what? Let's get together." And I believe it was the top 2 open primaries for the state. That's what it was. So this was back in
okay,
2020. So a yes vote supported establishing a top 2 open primary system for primary elections for state legislators. A no vote opposed establishing a top 2. And so
okay.
we worked against that. Now maybe that's not your that particular thing's not your thing, and it's 2020, so who cares now anyway? But in the future, would you be open to challenging this two party system by doing stuff where you align or hosting events and saying like, "Look, we're going to come together on this thing," or are you just like, "Nah, we're
Yeah,
two party."
yeah, for sure. I mean, if there was something that, a particular issue, that, we were aligned with another, um, party with, yeah, absolutely, I'd be open to it.
Fair enough. That's cool. I think that's the way forward, right? To start learning how to come together when we align, and then when we butt heads, well, do so, vigorously, but also leave the violence out of it.
Right,
That's kind of where I sit on this. So let's segue into the violence.
okay.
Where were you? This sounds like this. This sounds like a 9/11 question. Where were
I know
you
it, yeah.
when Charlie Kirk was shot? Were you like, what were you
I
up to?
was I was in class. I was walking I was just leaving class. I was walking to the parking garage, and then my friend texted me and said Charlie Kirk got shot, and I was like, "No, you're playing." No, there's just no way.
Right.
And then I saw that he wasn't playing, like, it actually happened. And at first I was just like, oh, it'll be like a Trump, he got grazed or whatever. But then my friend sent me the video, like the up close video of him getting
Mhm.
shot, and I was like, oh my God, there's no way. Like, he's gone, you know.
Right.
That was before we had known he had died, but I mean, I don't know if you saw the video, but, like, if anybody
Oh,
who
yeah.
has seen the video was I mean, I didn't know how brutal it was gonna be. If I knew how brutal it was gonna be I mean, I guess I don't really know what I was expecting, but, um, if I knew how brutal it was gonna be, I wouldn't have clicked on it. But,
Right. Yeah.
um, um, but it was pretty brutal, and my dad is both my parents were nurses, and not that you need a medical professional to know that nobody can really survive that. I showed the video to my dad, and he was like, "Yeah, no, there's no way," you know?
Right.
So, I was at school and which was pretty, I guess, poetic since it happened at, you know, a college and I'm involved
Mhm.
in campus politics.
Right. So, yeah, and I did see it, by the way. In fact, the first thing that I saw was Charlie Kirk was shot, and I saw it from reputable sources. So I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "This is, this is horrific." And then
Mhm.
just through the regular scrolling, I saw the far away video, and I was like, "That doesn't look good." And then I saw the up close video again by happenstance, and then I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, I don't think that one. I think that's really, really bad." And so my initial thought was, if he survives, it's gonna be one hell of a miracle. That was, uh, of the type of shots that, it's one that you look at and you're like, I don't think you're gonna make it. It's just that way. And so
Right.
it was very horrific. So you guys put out a statement. What was your statement?
I did put out a statement. Let me pull it up here.
Sure.
It was before we had found out that he died.
Okay.
But um, our statement was today, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk was shot at an event at Utah Valley University. The Florida College Democrats strongly condemn political violence in all forms. Violence has no place in our democracy, even when we disagree. Our thoughts and prayers are with Charlie Kirk and his family, and we wish him a full and speedy recovery, which obviously, fortunately, um,
Right.
he died after that. But we didn't release another statement after that just because I thought that, I mean, you know,
Right. No, I totally get it. And then also, look, you know, you are 20, and I'm not belittling that, but I know that when I was 20, I would have fewer words than when I'm 47, right? Like you
yeah,
learn over time, you observe the world, and then you kind of learn about, okay, here is what I might say. Like, you know what I mean? And again, I'm not trying to belittle. I'm just saying, like, when you're twice as old, you have twice the experience to work with. So
right,
I wouldn't necessarily expect, you know, college students to have all the perfect words necessarily at any given moment for every little thing. So
right.
I think what you guys said was perfectly fair. I am curious. You mentioned thoughts and prayers in there,
Hmm.
and that has been something that gets ridiculed, particularly by people on the left, and not even necessarily radical people, especially after shootings. So, like, explain to me when and like how you feel about using thoughts and prayers after somebody's been shot, but then also where a lot of people on your side tend to ridicule the idea, right? Like if Republicans are out there like, "Hey, thoughts and prayers for this event," you get, and a lot of it's social media, and I get it, but just kind of let's explore that with you.
I think that a lot of so I don't think thoughts and prayers are a bad thing for the
Mhm,
record. I think that, obviously people have their own way of coping with things and all that. I am not particularly religious, so thoughts and prayers doesn't really mean much to me.
mhm,
Not that I didn't mean it when I said,
sure,
about Charlie
totally get it.
Kirk, but I mean, what else are you gonna say in that situation?
Right.
So but I also think that, the frustration with the thoughts and prayers thing also is kind of justified. I think it comes from we see shooting after shooting after shooting. From the first shooting I really remember was Sandy Hook,
Mhm,
and then there was Sandy Hook, there was Vegas, there was you name it,
mhm,
Pulse in Orlando, um, and nothing's been done, in
mhm.
terms of gun reform. So that's I think kind of and I know we'll definitely disagree on that, but
Yeah.
I know that's kind of where the frustration with the thoughts and prayers comes in. But I mean, in that particular situation, with Charlie Kirk, I mean, what were we? You know what I'm saying? Like I
Mhm.
didn't really know what else to say in
Right.
term because I didn't want to make it immediately political because I mean it had just happened.
Right.
I didn't want to talk about gun reform immediately right then and there because it had
Got
just
it.
happened. But I think in general, when you're asking about thoughts and prayers, I think that that's kind of the frustration with it.
Mhm. So, would it be fair to ask of your si so me, I've never had a problem with thoughts and prayers. Okay, now I don't say thoughts and prayers necessarily because I'm not a religious person, so I will just say, like, something else that's basically along the same lines. It's basically the same, and I agree with you actually that when people say thoughts and prayers, I am in Florida. There's nothing I can physically do for Utah or any other state. Like unless
Yeah.
something happens here. And even then, if something happened, like a couple of years ago, we had the shooting at the Dollar General with the that white kid that went and shot 3 black people. Well, again, there wasn't now in that particular case, I actually ended up doing something because Maj Toure from Black Guns Matter just happened to be in the area. And so we partnered with him and we went down and we hosted an event where we actually gave people an ad hoc gun safety instruction. So I was actually able to do something just by happenstance there. But generally speaking, I have no opportunity to do anything other than offer some sort of sympathies. So here's my question to you: going forward, is it fair to ask of you that maybe Democrats and people on the left are a little bit more sympathetic to the thoughts and prayers when people on the right are saying it, and at least in the immediate moment, and then later say, okay, now time has passed. Let's have a policy discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly understand that. I think that that's kind of, I think maybe sometimes we jump the gun a little bit, no pun intended.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of, maybe talking about gun issues, I think maybe in the immediate aftermath of a shooting, yes, it's totally appropriate to say, hey, listen, let's just like, think about these people, come together and like just pray or whatever, pray to the universe or whatever it is you do. Um, you know, um, I think that's totally fair, but I also think that, thoughts and prayers only go so far,
Hmm.
and that we need real substantive action in Congress ultimately.
Okay.
So I think to your point, just it's in the immediate aftermath. Yes, I don't have a problem with people expressing their thoughts and prayers or whatever. But it kind of gets to a point where, okay, yeah, we'll express our thoughts and prayers, but what else are we going to do about it?
Sure. And we would definitely disagree on that, particularly liberty, more so than you would disagree with Republicans, because Republicans don't love their guns nearly as much as libertarians love our guns. So, but we're not here to debate the gun control or guns necessarily. We both know where we stand on that. So,
Right.
okay, so he got shot. You put out the statement. Have you guys? Because look, I don't have anywhere near the platform that Charlie Kirk had. So the likelihood of me being as big of a target as him would be ridiculous to say. However, that doesn't mean I'm not a target at all because crazy is crazy and you just need one crazy person to see you and say, "Hey, I know I can get to that person." Right? Like that's
Right.
all that it takes. And we saw this, we see this in non-political sense where people who aren't even public. We saw that with Irina Zarutska, right, in Charlotte. She was not a public figure and somebody identified her as a potential target for whatever reason. So I have started making some security changes, and I'm not going to divulge necessarily what they are, but have you guys done the same thing? Have you looked and said, all right, the things that we're doing, here's how we protect ourselves? Because I wouldn't want you guys to suffer violence either.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about it. I think it's scary because we were just talking about it like that could have happened here at UNF. Like
Mhm.
Charlie Kirk could have been here at UNF, or that could have been one of us. I mean, not obviously like you were saying, we don't have as big of
Mhm.
a platform as Charlie Kirk did, but um, um, that could have been any one of us, or could have happened here. So yeah, we've
Mhm.
definitely talked about that. And like you said, I don't think we should be divulging the specifics of it, but um, yeah, it's definitely brought some security concerns for sure. I mean, and I mean, and who wouldn't be, worried about that, especially
Right.
nowadays?
Gotcha. Question from the audience. I think we already know where this is going to go. Um, what are your thoughts on guns on campus, guns in general, and should they be banned outright in the US?
Okay, no, guns should not be banned.
Okay.
I think Well, I think assault rifles should be banned. Like, I don't think there's any reason that anybody should have an AR-15,
Mhm.
um, or anything like that. Guns on campuses, I think that that should be left to student. We have like a UNF, and I know every other college does too. A campus police, and they're armed. So I
Mhm.
think that that's plentiful. There was another question about the
What do you
guns in
think of
general.
yeah, guns in general?
I'm not a gun person, really. To tell you the truth, I've never touched a gun before. I've never
Mhm.
shot a gun. If I tried to shoot a gun, I'd probably, I don't know, like fly backwards. But I mean, listen, people have the right to have their guns. But I also think that um, this is a whole other issue too. But that nobody should be carrying around military grade weapons.
Okay. So let me ask you, would you be open to going and firing a weapon, like going to the range?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I mean, like, just going to the gun range or whatever, just to have that, especially, I mean, now, for protection purposes,
Right.
obviously, I'm not opposed to people owning guns, um, or people going to the shooting range or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that there's certain, you have to have regulation. And obviously, I know you're a libertarian,
Sure, sure, yeah.
um,
Yeah, and we're
but
not here to debate the guns.
yeah,
We're just asking
yeah.
some questions, making some answers when
That's my opinion on it. I mean,
okay,
and obviously, we can have that conversation at a later date. But um,
while we're at the range.
yeah, okay. I'm totally open to going to the
All right,
range.
we'll keep in contact. We'll go to the range. I know the Libertarian Party of Duval hosted a gun range event, and a while back, and maybe we'll do it again, and you can join us.
I'd be happy to. Be
Awesome.
happy to.
I'm going to hold you to it. So, all right. So let's back to the political violence here. So you don't know anybody that was celebrating. What is your take? Now, I agree with you. The rhetoric about civil war, garbage,
Mhm.
absolute garbage. And to be honest with you, let me this is where I think my age comes into play, very useful, because I've been around a while. And when I was younger, let's just say that I got into some things and was, that I wasn't supposed to be into, and I was associating with people that you really shouldn't be associating. And I've I've done something. I've experienced way more violence than I think virtually every single person calling for civil war. I'm pretty sure they've never been beat up in their life, right?
Right.
Much less in a fight. And my experience says in most cases, the person that runs their mouth the most, they're the person that's either not going to show up or they're going to be the first one to run. In most cases, there are a few that do back it up. So, but I don't like the rhetoric because I'm like, you're stirring up something that you're probably not even going to be present for. And then I
Right.
also don't like the rhetoric of mocking and laughing a dead person. And I have held with that forever. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Rush Limbaugh, every personality that has passed away, I've been like, look, let it go for the time being. Let the family mourn. We'll move on. People die. That's a thing. That happens. We all death comes for us all. So I think we're in a full agreement there. So you have all this rhetoric online. What's your perspective? Should it be, should the government step in and do anything? Should Elon Musk do anything? Should it just be social consequences? What's your take?
That see that's the question.
Mm,
I think that, like, when you regulate what can and can't be said on social media, then that becomes a free speech issue.
mhm,
You get lawyers involved. You go to court. So I don't know what the solution is, to
mhm,
tell you the truth. I don't pretend to know what the solution is. I don't know. Like, but there's no secret that this rhetoric is harmful.
mhm,
And I think the reason why we're seeing so many people being radicalized, like, for example, the Luigi Mangione guy, shooting and killing the healthcare CEO.
mhm,
Um, he was radicalized, and I mean, he came from a wealthy family, and he had went to, the Ivy League school, University of Pennsylvania, got a master's degree there. So it's not like he was just some random, you know, nut.
mhm.
Well, he's a nut, but, an
Right.
educated one. So I think that social media radicalizes a lot of people into committing violence. Now, obviously, if you're going to go and kill somebody, you probably have issues.
Mhm.
Um, you know, outside of social media, but I think social media a lot of the time kind of amplifies that,
Mhm.
and kind of um but I don't know what the solution is. I think it's up to these, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, whatever, to kind of regulate it on their own because that they can do whatever they want. It's a private company.
Mhm.
Whether they're going to do that, I don't know. And like, can we make them do it? I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, to tell you the truth.
That's fair, and to everybody listening and watching, I just wanna make it clear that not everybody, everybody doesn't have all the answers. As my, favorite economist, Thomas Sowell says, "Everyone is ignorant of something." So, I don't disparage you for, not having an idea just yet. I was just curious, like, what thoughts that you had. Personally, me, I am a free speech absolutist, and so if it's not a clear threat, then I would say it should not be illegal. I'm personally not a fan of canceling people. I haven't been a fan of canceling people since 2014. That's my earliest recollection of it. I'm trying to think of how old you would have been at 2014, so you may not know this story. But this is when Proposition 8 was a big deal in California about same-sex marriage, and there was a guy named Brandon Ike. He was basically canceled. He ascended to CEO, and then everybody flipped out when they found out that he donated $1,000 to Proposition 8, basically against same-sex marriage. And everybody flipped out, and they basically ran him out of town. And I was like, no, I don't think this is the right thing to do. I don't think this is how we should behave. Um, and what I found remarkable at the time was that people that knew him, they were like, I never knew he held these beliefs. And I'm like, that's kind of the point, right? Like of a good CEO is you don't necessarily know their beliefs. And the only reason we knew is because he made a donation. That's it. But otherwise, no interactions. Nobody could say an interaction that they had with him that was negative.
Right.
And so that was my first recollection of cancel culture outside of my early days of being an evangelical. They can be a bit punchy within their own ranks, but as far as externally to some other group, that was my or other person. That was my recollection. So I've always opposed it. I hate what I see going on now. Or do you accept the idea that people can be fired from their jobs over certain speech? Any speech?
Well, we live in Florida is a right to work state or a at will employment state.
Mhm.
So you can be fired for any reason,
Right.
other than, discrimination and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think that people should be getting fired for, um, criticizing Charlie Kirk.
Hmm.
Um, now if you're out there like saying, you know, "Oh, like, I'm glad he's dead, he deserved it," I think that's another thing. Um,
So you would
but
support it?
I don't know, it's up to the employer. It's
Okay.
not if I think it if it's a bad reflection of the company, then maybe,
Hmm.
but I think, nobody should be fired for simply just criticizing Charlie Kirk. We were seeing websites being put up of people's, addresses and their
Hmm.
employers and things like that being put online simply not even like they're not even celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. They're just,
Right.
pointing out some of the things they disagreed with him. And and a lot of these people on the right, in the more so in the Republican Party, um, we have people. We have somebody in the Duval County Republican Party. I'm not going to name names,
Okay.
but
Probably better.
the secretary of the Duval Republican Party has a fake account on Twitter, but we all know whose account it is. She reposts her own posts on her fake account, so we all know who it is. But she's doing this. She's like contacting employers. She's like screenshotting people's LinkedIn and things like that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's kind of unbecoming of a member of a political party. I think if you're on the executive board. Anyway, so to answer your question, um, I think it depends, but I think for the most part, I don't think people should be getting fired for
Okay. So
yeah.
there are 2 issues. Let's make sure that we distinguish between the 2. There is the employers choosing to fire people. Now, I believe, because libertarians believe in freedom of association and also absolute in that, that means, and you'll disagree with me on this, part, you can be fired for any or not hired for any reason whatsoever. So that means if one day I have a company and I wake up and I'm like, you know what? I decide I don't like gay people. I can just fire all my gay employees just for being gay. I know you'll disagree with that, but that's our view of freedom of association. So I don't actually take issue with employers firing people necessarily. What I do have a problem with is how that information is getting to the employers, because you got a lot of online mobs that a mob of people that are digging in and finding somebody, and they're finding out where they work, and then they're blasting it all over the place, and they're embarrassing the company, and the companies are not willing to take that kind of heat. So it's just easier. It's a business decision for them to let this employee go. I don't like that. So are you saying that you would oppose both of those in that context?
Um, no, well, I think that, obviously, like you said, employers have the right to fire
Mhm.
anybody for any reason. Um, but I think that, you know, I'm sorry, I kind of blanked out for a second. Could you just
Yeah, sorry. So there's 2 elements: the firing from the employer side, and then how that
yes.
information is getting to them through the
Right, right,
online
okay.
mob.
So I think that yeah, I mean, I think it's totally ridiculous that we're having these mobs online, like I was just saying, kind of borderline doxing people,
Mhm.
for their beliefs, which I think is kind of concerning. I mean, it's I don't know, it's giving um, you know, um, back when that North Korean dictator died and people were sent to camps because they weren't crying hard enough.
Right.
I'm not equating this to that, but I'm just saying that's kind of, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. So I agree with you that, I think
Where do we
it's
draw the line is basically what
yeah,
you're saying.
exactly. Where do we draw the line? Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, am I going to be fired just because I know my employer would never fire me because of this, but would I be fired because I post something that, oh, I disagree with Charlie Kirk on this, and then somebody interprets that as me celebrating his death, which I
Mhm.
would never do.
Right.
So yeah, no, yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, fair enough. And, I think this is the kind of conversation that we need to have, and we need to work out. So now what do we do about the radical elements in our ranks? Because everybody has them. The
Right,
libertarians have them, right? We get made fun of because people will say, like, oh, you guys want to argue age of consent laws. And I'm like, that is the weirdos, the radicals in our, like most libertarians aren't walking around thinking about, what we should do? We should challenge the age of consent laws.
right,
Like, and the ones that do, they're really engaging more in a philosophical conversation. They're not like, I mean, it's not a good one necessarily because there's no good optic for that. But then you've got like on the left, you've got these radical elements. You've got, like queer Marxism and all this other stuff that's equated with people on the left. And on the right, you have the extreme right who, maybe they want,
that's
maybe
kind
they
of an
want a theocratic.
oxymoron, isn't it? Queer Marxism.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, but then on the right, you have like your everything from your Nazis, your neo Nazis, to people that maybe want a theocratic nation. It's kind of all over the place. So, is there anything that you guys actively do to kind of keep your radical elements in line or separate yourself from them? Like, what's the answer there?
Well, I think, we have a platform, we have a party platform that, we generally fall in line with. And the far left people that you're talking about, the queer Marxists or whatever, generally they're so far left, they don't even want to associate with the
Right.
Democratic Party. They think the Democratic Party is too conservative,
Mhm.
which, I don't even know what to say about that.
I hear you.
But, um, so I mean, those kind of people I don't really know, but I mean, we do have members of the Democratic Party who are, further left than I am, and I think I'm pretty moderate, but I guess it's up to interpretation. But
What's
um,
your most left leaning position that you think?
oh God, oh, um, probably I don't know. Maybe guns.
Okay.
Maybe guns, I would say. But I don't know though, because then when you get to the super far left, you have a lot of people on the super far left who are more probably in line with you on guns.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Sure. Fair enough.
But I'm sorry, I got distracted again. Where were we?
No, no, it's
Where we
okay.
go?
So you were talking about like how you deal with the radical elements
Right.
within either, and here's what I mean by that, just to kind of help you out a little. Um, I know that some of the far leftists don't want to be associated with the Democrat Party. However, from the right and maybe from even independent perspective, the perspective of the right and perspective of the independents, they might look at it and say the left, right? Whereas
Yeah, they generalize.
people
They
might look and say the
generalized.
right.
Right. Yeah, totally, totally. I agree with that. I think so from the perspective of somebody maybe who's more on the right or in the middle, I think the Democrats, we need to do a better job of, recognizing, yes, we do have, members of our party who may be more on, more progressive side, or people who are not even a part of our party, like you were saying, who are still encompassed overall as the left. So I think maybe we need to kind of reiterate our party platform, be like, hey, like we're not advocating for, I don't know, defunding the police,
Mhm,
or um, other things that, the more fringe left people, support. So um, ultimately, I think it comes down to messaging.
mhm.
And so how people interpret that, I guess, is up to them. Um, but I think it comes down to messaging for sure.
Okay. And then you said, I had a thought there and I'm trying to remember. See, it happens to all of us, especially when you get older. Um, defunding the police. You said you don't support defunding the police?
Nope. No, I
Wow,
do not.
okay. I didn't realize you were aligned with the Republicans on that.
Well, I think most Democrats
You
don't
had to say
support
it, I had to.
defunding most Democrats don't support defunding the police. No.
Okay. All right.
That was a big thing during the mayoral election when Donna
Mhm.
Deegan was running for mayor. You had Daniel Davis running ad saying that she, um, was wanting to defund the police, which is, obviously she came out and said that was not true. And you see that
Right.
in her budget. Her budget now is just totally not true.
Right. Well, it wouldn't matter anyway because at the state level they passed legislation that would kind of prevent that in the first place. But that's beside the point. Okay, cool. So what else? Like we're getting close to the end of our time. What else? Because you said you're like I got a lot to say, and I'm like, did we miss anything? Is there anything that you really wanted to talk about that I
Well,
did not bring up?
Well, I mean, we kind of touched on this, but I also just want to reiterate, like, to folks who are watching out there, who are, seeing what's going on online, and seeing people posting about Charlie Kirk. Let me just say, first of all, the murder of Charlie Kirk was just totally abhorrent. Okay, it shouldn't have happened. It was awful. I feel horribly for his children, his wife. My thoughts go out to them. I cannot imagine. I mean, his children are going to grow up one day and probably see that video, and it's horrifying to think about.
Mhm,
And I think that people are seeing what's on Twitter, and how divided things are on Twitter. Like we were just talking about, people on the far right calling for civil war, and the people on the far left celebrating. You know, but I don't really think that that's what the majority of people are feeling.
mhm.
I think most everybody that I know, at least, is more, you know, sensible about this issue, you could say. Just coming together and realizing that political violence is not okay. I mean, even when we disagree, vehemently with somebody, it's
Mhm.
just it's not okay. I didn't like. I mean, I wasn't. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I was a Charlie Kirk fan, but I didn't. That doesn't mean I wanted him to get killed, at
Right.
all. It doesn't. It doesn't mean that at all. And I don't think that um, that is okay at all. So I think that what I want to say to the people, is just go touch grass,
Mhm.
get off of Twitter, get off of Instagram, get off of Facebook, go read a book, go talk to somebody on the street, go talk to your family, whatever, get off of social media, because that's where all this vitriol is coming from, I think.
I agree. I agree. And I actively go and touch grass all the time. I love working in my yard, doing that kind of a thing. And I'll do some woodworking from time to time, just kind of get away from the screen, get away,
Right.
my laptop, my tablet, my phone, all the screens that
Right.
we have that we're surrounded by all the time. And as much as I love technology. Okay, that's awesome. So um, our takeaways here are we agree against political violence. We agree that hey, it's probably time for every group, whatever that group is, whether it's a political party or what have you, to have a strong conversation with some of the radical elements that are at least perceived as associated, whether they are or not. right? So that's one thing that we can all do better, and it's different for each group to some respect. Um, I think we agreed on thoughts and prayers is reasonable for people to say, even if we want to have a discussion at a later time and say, okay, maybe you need to, now that we've gotten out of that moment, now it's time to have a serious conversation about policy and how do we prevent this, what have you. And then we also agreed that, hey, you're going to go to the gun range, at some point,
I'd
right?
be
We'll see
happy
what
to
that.
go to the gun range. Yeah, I think that'd be exciting.
I think so. And then maybe we'll have you back on and you could talk about your experience and talk about how you love guns and you think everybody should have 12 of them, right? Maybe. Uh, Hopeful thinking on my part. Very
Yeah,
wishful.
that's wishful thinking there,
Fair enough.
but I will be happy to go to the gun range and maybe, uh, uh, just kind of open my horizons, I guess you could say. Maybe not
Sure.
on my beliefs, but just more of like I said, never shot a gun before, so that'd be something new.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you guys ever are looking for somebody to come and speak for libertarian ideas or just whatever, ring me up. I mean, ring me up.
Of course, I
I'm an old man.
absolutely,
Ring me up.
definitely not that
So
old.
I'm getting there. I'm trying to be cantankerous, but it's not working so well. But anyway, all right, Mason, it was great having you on. I think this is a wonderful conversation. We'll have to definitely do it again. We'll keep tabs on each other. I'll be watching to see what the college Democrats are up to and what kind of things. Maybe we can get you to work with the Libertarian Party from time to time on issues where you align, and then you can butt heads as needed else at other times. So I think that would be
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. It was a good talk. I think it was productive.
awesome. I'm going to put you backstage. If you got to go, that's fine. If you want to stick around for a moment, we can chat after the show. That's cool too. So
I do have class in about an hour, so I got to start getting ready for that. But I do appreciate you having me on, and um, wish you well. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. Bye
Have a good
bye.
one. Bye. All right, folks, there you have it. Great conversation with Mason Shoemaker. Thank you for watching. As always, I want to point out that uh, this is going to be feels kind of weird a little bit to say, but you can support the show by going to blackgunsmatter.shop and getting your 10% discount by using the code LibertyDad, all one word. Or in the show notes, you can go and check out the referral link. Go there. You would be supporting not only this show, but you would be supporting Black Guns Matter. That's Maj Toure, does great work teaching mostly, but not exclusively, urban communities about firearm safety, de-escalation, and all the proper things that come with owning a firearm. So go support the show in that way. But if you're like, hey, I don't need any gear, you can always go to my link tree. It's in the show notes. You can go there. You can find Buy Me a Coffee. You can find my Patreon. You can support me. Supporting me supports the show, helps it grow, do better things. I am looking to become the top libertarian show in the United States. You can help me by going to those links. With that being said, we're going to get out of here for today, folks. I will see you tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow I will be talking about cancel culture. I have a lot to say about that. So we're going to have that conversation about cancel culture. I think I might surprise some of you with that. Then Friday, I've been working on my dad talk. What I want to talk about. We're going to step away from politics. We're going to step away from all the debate, and we're going to have a very interesting conversation about about reading. We're going to talk more about reading. I got some ideas that I want to tell you about, some family things, and I think you'll find that interesting, especially for anybody who has a small child and you're looking to assist them in their growth and in their development as they're learning to read and getting better at it. And then Monday, September 22nd, I will be on the Larry Sharp podcast. I will be with Ben from up in New Hampshire, Ben Weir, and he is the current chair of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. We're going to go on there and we're going to disagree a little bit to some degree. I don't know how much just yet, but we're going to disagree about borders. As you know, I am more of an Ellis Island style, and Ben is more of a closed border. So we're going to have that conversation, debate, what have you. So look forward to all of that. With that, guys, I look forward again to seeing you tomorrow. But for now, I'm going to head on out. Let me let's see here. Where do we start the show? Hmm.